I'm Scott Weaver, and today we have John Krupa, who is president of Italian Speaker Imports, and he's going to inform us today on Studio Master, one of
Yes,
the
sir.
brands that you bring in. Tell us a little bit about the background on Studio Master.
Absolutely. First of all, hi, Scott. Uh, Second of all, sure, I'd be happy to talk to you about Studio Master. Studio Master was actually founded way back 1976 in a little town in England. A bunch of engineers sat around and decided that there were not enough good high power amplifiers in the English market. So they started building them from scratch. And that company eventually, a couple of months later, started working with mixing boards. 2 years later, they moved into a much bigger facility. They continued to be engineers and work with bands like the one I remember is Judas Priest. Was one of the bands that they worked with. And at the same time they were doing that live sound, they were developing products. So throughout the late 1970s through the 1980s, they became quite well known for their mixing boards. In fact, I remember a time in my youth where they were the dominant small mixer brand in the world.
Yeah, I had one.
I'm telling you, a lot of people did, and we're very happy with them. Very
Uh
high
huh.
quality English products, and they dominated in the 70s and the 80s. And as time went on, as what happens with a lot of companies, they made some decisions that maybe didn't help them out so much. So I'm going to actually speed up the story here and fast forward into the 2000s. Okay, let's not go through the lean years here. But what happened was a company called Sound King, who you may or may not have heard of, ended up acquiring Studio Master in the 2000s. And the reason that this is a very important part of their history is because Sound King actually last year, I just checked the music trades, said they are the 21st largest company in our industry. So Sound King is a huge company out of China, but you wouldn't maybe know who they are here in the United States because they do a lot of OEM work.
Right.
They work for other brands and don't do things under their own brand. But you've probably seen their products just under someone else's brand.
They've been around
So
for a long time.
they really have. They've been around since the 1980s themselves.
Yeah.
So we're talking about two old and storied companies. So what happened with this acquisition is Studio Master, after the acquisition, has a lot of their original people there. Some really good engineers, some really good designers, and they are still designing these products in England as they always have. But now they're using the immense manufacturing capabilities of Sound King to, number one, speed up time to market, but also important to you and I and everyone, to drive the manufacturing costs way down to make these products more economical than they've ever been. So this has been a really good situation, this acquisition from Sound King in the 2000s. And they've been doing this a couple of years here in the United States. They're back with my company. You mentioned my company's Italian Speaker Imports. We are the USA headquarters of Studio Master, and we've been working with them now for, oh my gosh, a whopping about 14 months. And it's been a great 14 months, except, for all the trouble in the world. But
Well,
outside of COVID,
you beat my next question, which was what we up to now.
yeah, yeah.
Kind of went straight into it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something, Scott. It's funny. So throughout these, I guess you'd call them lean times for our industry, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's not just been COVID. Come on. I mean, we've had political turmoil. We've had ice storms and snowstorms shutting down everything. We have problems with importation into the United States. We have the tariffs. Throughout all this, Studio Master has taken off. It's a brand that is doing incredibly well and saw just exponential growth over the last 14 months here in the United States. We're honored to be working with them. And one thing I can tell you is they're a larger company product-wise than they've been in a very long time. They've developed a lot of new products with the help of Sound King. you would still recognize Studio Master as the same classic company they've been, the mixing board and the amps, but they've added so much more just in the last couple of years that they're going to be a real powerhouse. There's no doubt.
Well, on your recommendation, I put I'm sitting here looking at it right now. I've got a Studio Master amp in my studio, and it is fantastic.
Awesome.
It's marvelous. I love it. I've always been a fan of their stuff. They got really good stuff.
Yeah.
You know that we do churches. That's my company. You know,
Absolutely.
that's what we do is churches. And you talk about the COVID thing. They shut my churches down. They shut down my customers. We've had a really bad time this year.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're coming out of this and so forth. If there was one thing that you were to say, okay, church, you need to look at this piece. Everybody needs it. What would you say?
So it's a great question, Scott. So I have a kind of a funny answer because I've just told you about how we're known for our mixing boards and our amplifiers. And that's what we've been doing since 1976. Well, one of the things that kind of changed after the acquisition by Sound King was the advent of loudspeakers. Okay. Whereas we weren't designing loudspeakers, in the 1970s and 1980s, although we dabbled in making guitar amps, and we dabbled in doing, outboard DSPs and stuff like that. We really hadn't been known as a loudspeaker company, but today I think that that's one of the things at the forefront of what we're doing. So if I had to choose one product for churches to look at within Studio Master to get really excited about something unique, I'd actually turn us to the Direct 121.
All right, tell us about it.
Yeah, okay, I'm happy to. So the Direct 121 is actually, it's not just a loudspeaker, it's actually a loudspeaker system. Okay, this is something that we've seen popping up in our industry quite a bit recently, where you're not just buying a single top box or a single subwoofer, you're buying the complete system all in one. So Direct 121 is a system. And as you can see in the pictures that we're going to put up here, so it comes with a top column. And then there's a dummy stand. There's no speakers in that middle piece. That middle piece is just so you get the right height from the top piece. And then all of these plug in without the use of any cables. They just plug right in to our subwoofer. The subwoofer is a 12-inch subwoofer, gives you a tremendous low end out of it because the entire system is 1,200 watts. 600 watts to the subwoofer, 600 watts to the top box. The top box is a series of 6 3-inch drivers, and then there's a little 1-inch there as well. It's just overall, it's easy to put together. It sounds phenomenal. But if there's one reason I think that churches should look at this, beyond it sounding great and beyond it being very discreet, it's not getting in the way of sight lines and stuff like that. The number one thing to look at, value. That's what we're bringing to the table more than anything else. It's a fantastic price point for an all-in-one speaker system. It's not just, a top box or a sub. It's a complete system. So when you're playing it, you're getting the sound of just everything you need. You don't need to add anything to it. This is everything a church needs to give big, full, rich sound and tons of functionality too. The Direct 121 does have Bluetooth built right in. So if you want to actually play from a cell phone or something like that, as long as you're hooked up via Bluetooth, you can play from there. You can do that wirelessly. We have all the capabilities of tuning these to the sound that you like. There's an EQ built onto it. There's a little mixer section on here too, Scott. So if it's a real portable system where you're doing missionary work or something like that, and you just have 2 microphones or something like that, here's one for you, one for me. That's all you need. You don't need to bring anything else with you. You don't need a mixer. You don't need anything. So very, very all-in-one, great value product.
Every church needs this thing, even if it's in the closet for a month, and then they have you've got to,
Youth group or something like
for
that.
us
Yeah.
country boys, we have dinner on the ground outside.
Yeah.
Well,
There
I
you go.
guess the new normal is you have parking lot church, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
drag this thing out, and you've got a sound system in 3 minutes, man. Uh,
Absolutely.
it just
Personally,
folds away to nothing and goes away. You don't have to rip down your main system or set up a whole new thing. And
yeah, but because of that too, one thing, I'm not going to steer you wrong. And this particular product it's our best selling product for good reason. It really is. This is something to look at. And Scott, with the reputation that you have, this is something that is only going to enhance that reputation as people listen to it and use it and say, "Hey, Scott, you're right. You sold us the right thing here." This is really the answer, as you mentioned, that a lot of places are looking for in a portable system that can give you big sound.
well, I appreciate your time, man. I know you're real busy running the whole place up there. Especially, I don't know what some people can come and some people can't. It's like if you walk by somebody that has COVID, you're stuck at your house for 2 months.
Yeah.
It's we're all tired of it. I got spring fever bad. We got up to 64 degrees, and I got out on my motorcycle and I froze to death. But I was on it, baby.
Good. Well, that's a step in the right direction,
A
Scott.
step in the right direction. But yeah, I appreciate your time, man. And thanks everybody for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe and support us that way. Thanks.
Thank you.